This month on Cooking for Wellness, we're baking carrot and apple muffins for a heart-healthy treat. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Cooking for Wellness at NYU Langone Health. I'm Chef Jeffrey Held, and today we have a very special guest, Chief of Medicine and Director of Heart Failure Services at NYU Langone Hospital, Long Island, Dr. Shaline D. Welcome, Dr. Rao.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Just wanted to share that I love these episodes, and it's been a workplace dream of mine to be here. So I'm very excited to cook with you today. I'm very excited now.
So Dr. Rao, can you tell us a little bit about your role at NYU Langone Health?
Thank you for asking. You know, it's interesting because I wear two hats at work. One, as you mentioned, was Director of Heart Failure Services at NYU Long Island. So I see advancing heart failure patients, people with complex cardiac diseases, really help them navigate sort of the day-to-day of their needs, and then think about advanced therapies, complex interventions like transplant, if they're really getting sick enough to need that. And that's something I'm really excited about, and we've been seeing growing in Long Island. But my other hat is Chief of Medicine. So we're thinking about the entire Department of Medicine. On the inpatient side, I work closely with our department chair and our chief medical officer to think about strategy and operations for our inpatients in the Long Island campus.
Wow, you're busy. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in America, and genetics play a huge role. Dr. Rao, how important is diet in overall heart health?
It's incredibly important. And I think there's a lot of messaging out there about this, but that doesn't make it any less overwhelming or challenging for patients and people generally in our community to take the steps we need. So it's really about breaking down into smaller decisions and really looking at your day-to-day diet. What food brings you joy? What's part of your community? What are your health goals? And if you can really think about all those things together, we can look at diet as something that we can change, shift over time to really move in a healthier direction without necessarily creating a big overhaul.
So today we're going to do some baking. I really enjoy experimenting with baked goods and adjusting recipes to fit specific diets. We have a lot of recipes at the hospital that, we've modified to fit gluten-free, vegan, and dairy-free diets. We almost always opt for, non-refined sugars, plant-based fats, and we figured out how to use ground flaxseed in the place of eggs in a bunch of different recipes. I also love to incorporate different vegetables and fruits into our baked items. So today, we're gonna make carrot apple muffins with whole wheat flour, almond flour, pecans, dates, and maple syrup. High fiber, healthy fats, plant protein, and loaded with vitamins and minerals. Let's get started.
Okay.
So first thing we're gonna do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I always try not to use spray specifically. The reason being, the spray can have a hidden ingredient. Like there was once the spray we had, the serving size was a 1/4 second spray and it had no trans fat. So it means if you spray something for 2 seconds, you're using 8 servings and it did have trans fat. So needless to say, it's this episode is a lot about uncoding labels and things like that, knowing where hidden fats and hidden sugar and hidden sodium are. So this is plain olive oil and a brush, very easy to do. For our egg substitute, we take flaxseed. We literally grind it in a coffee grinder. You use 1 tablespoon of flaxseed meal per 3 tablespoons of water. You literally just combine them. You want to let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. They actually will develops a viscosity very similar to a beaten egg. But flaxseed, high protein, high fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids. We're gonna start by mixing our dry ingredients. So we have a cup of almond flour. We have 1 cup of whole wheat flour. We have 1.5 cups of old-fashioned oats, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, just a half teaspoon of kosher salt, and for leavening purposes, I have a teaspoon of baking soda. So especially when you're baking in this form, when we're not using any dairy, we're not using eggs, you gotta be really careful not to over mix. Hence one of the reasons why we're doing the dry first. So mix that while it's dry. That way none of the gluten gets activated. We're going to do our wet ingredients separately. We have our flax egg now that's been sitting just about 10, 12 minutes. We have about a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil, the zest of 1 lemon. For our sugar, we're using grade A Vermont maple syrup. We have some chopped Medjool dates. We're gonna combine these. We're gonna use a spatula because we don't wanna overmix. We wanna do like kind of fold as lightly in as we can. So I'm gonna put this right into here. You can just start mixing up. I have a cup of grated carrots and a cup of grated green apple. We're gonna actually fold in as well. The last ingredient, we have a half a cup of chopped pecans. You'll wanna let this rest, preferably overnight, but a couple hours is just as good. So, Dr. Rel, what are your thoughts on saturated versus non-saturated fats? And like, what do you recommend for your patients?
You know, I think it's a topic that comes up a lot in the office. People love butter, they love fried food, so they want to know where to draw those boundaries, and they often need specific direction. I like to emphasize moderation because I think it can be really challenging for people to overhaul everything about their diet. I think that you can emphasize unsaturated fats, healthy oils like olive oil. I do recommend making those changes, but that doesn't mean you can never have butter.
We use a ice cream scoop to make sure the size and the portion is even. All right, ready to go into the oven, 350 degrees, right about 20-25 minutes. You definitely don't want to overcook this muffin. So into the oven. All right, we're looking good. So you're gonna wanna let them rest for, at least 10 to 15 minutes. The last thing I did is I took some of our very own NYU Langone Health honey from our beehives on the roof. I just whipped it and just brushed the top and give just a tiny bit of extra sweetness rather than any kind of like butter, cream, or dairy, just a little bit of honey.
You asked earlier about foods you might recommend. Honey is actually something that crosses a lot of health spaces. Anti-inflammatory, helps people navigate allergies, and just is a healthier sweetener. So it even still relates to heart health. And I hope that we've inspired you with this recipe, that there are really fun and healthy ways to enjoy foods you love. And I think we can all really enjoy food with our friends and our family and keep it healthy and keep our hearts strong.
Dr. Rel, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all your knowledge on heart health. All right, you ready to taste?
Yes.
It's a great like breakfast or snack all day kind of thing. High protein, fiber. Delicious.
Really good.
Yeah, not too sweet. Very good.
The honey is really a nice addition.
Please check out more episodes on our healthy lifestyle playlist.